Yeah.
All right. Well, I got the Delaware State shirt on, by the way.
Well, I really thought that Bo Nix played well. Um, it's pretty interesting to see him go all the way to the West Coast. And oh, by the way, I looked into the college uh, rankings for the preseason stuff,
Yeah.
and I think there's only one Pac-12 team in there. I think it's
Well, I
Oregon's the
think
only one.
I would assume USC is somewhere in there.
They're not in the top 25.
Really?
Can you imagine? This particular poll is either the coaches or it's an AP poll,
Yeah,
AP top 25.
I would think USC has to be in one of the polls. I mean, if they have Riley and then they brought in Williams and all that, and
Oh my God,
their CFP odds are through the roof, I think.
yeah, I would think so too. But I would. I also was watching the Georgia one, and it Bennett was throwing the ball fine, but you could see that he lost a couple players, and I think he lost a tight end and a wide receiver and whatever. But that 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 timing and that knowledge of the two players is huge, and you know it. I mean, it just has to come and during the season, but I I don't know. It's going to be really. I'm going to be anxious to watch USC only because I think the fact that they sucked in so many players, on from the portal.
Especially from OU.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But
I think it's going to be interesting when we finally see them because I think they open up with they're going to be ranked early. I think.
yeah,
I'm not sure where. I think they were ranked preseason because they dropped that poll um a little under a month ago. I
okay,
have their schedule here though. They open up with Rice and then Stanford, Fresno State, and Oregon State. So you think right away that's probably 4-0.
right,
There's no real test there. And then they have back-to-back home games in conference with Arizona State and Washington State. They're not very much competition in Pac-12. And then the first test they have is on the road at Utah, just assuming that Utah picks up kind of where they left off last year. I don't
right,
know if you remember, they were on
yeah,
the
and you're
doorstep of the playoff.
yes, and you're right. Utah is supposedly ranked 12th, so yes, that's another Pac-12 team.
So then USC, you would think undefeated going into October. Then they play Arizona, Cal, Colorado. I mean, they're literally the only two games that are on their entire schedule, assuming that, Lincoln Riley has it down pat with Williams and everything we saw in the spring game. It's going to be UCLA and Notre Dame. And that's not
Right.
till Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. They could roll right through it.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna have questions of if there's like bumps, but like you would think with that also they're bringing all these guys in from different teams. You have the big market in USC. They could probably roll through that whole thing. And then will they play? And if they get to the playoffs, they're gonna play Bama. You would assume Georgia. Who
Right.
knows? And they could get stomped by one of them. But I
It's
don't
pretty
know that.
unbelievable how many kids from Georgia were drafted. I mean, that just shows you how talented
I think
some
they
of that
broke the
SEC
record.
is. What?
I think they broke the record. I
I
think it
think
was
they did too. I
15.
forget what it was, but I think it might have been like 15 or something like that.
I think it was held by LSU. I think it was their championship team when Burrow was there. They had like 13 or 14, and then Georgia just broke
Okay.
it. I saw
Yeah, it
that
was
yesterday.
15, but I mean that's getting off the subject, but it does show you
Yeah,
and they have been noted up until now. I don't know how that's going to go, but they've been noted to really bring some kids through the program and then go to the pros. And
yeah.
they might go as a junior or whatever, but um, you know, when it got right down to it, I thought that was going to be one of the biggest problems that college football was going to have was that kids were going to leave early as a sophomore or a junior or
Yeah.
senior, whatever, and get into pros. And in basketball, it happens a little easier, and it's a lot tougher in football because of the physical part of it.
Yeah, I think the draft even has like the NFL has like regulations that you have to be a junior, right?
I think so, yes. I, and quite frankly, if you're a sophomore or whatever, you're going to get killed. I
Yeah.
mean, that's all there
Yeah.
is to it. But I really think that I thought that that was going to be one of the biggest problems. But boy, with this NIL and the portal, the transfer portal, I I can't imagine the amount of it's going to be a tremendous difference in what's going on.
Yeah.
Coaches are going to have to really spend a lot of time figuring out how they're going to go about that.
I mean, you're already seeing it like with Lincoln Riley just up and leaving for USC, and then he kind of just steals all the guys back from OU.
Yeah,
And then you have like the complete opposite. I think Clemson, Dabo is like all about having like the culture, and he has all the guys that he's brought up since high school. I mean, he doesn't really tamper with the portal that much at all. So I think
but
it's
but think about that. I mean that's that clean way of doing things, and we're going to be real this and that, and we're going to toe the line, and we're going to make this like home and a family thing. And you know what? Unfortunately, there's nothing that is that way anymore,
yeah.
and it
And if
gets
it is, it may not be
bloodthirsty.
as successful.
Yeah, and it gets bloodthirsty as soon as you offer some guy $2 million to come to USC.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
speaking of that, that was the Addison thing that we were seeing earlier this afternoon.
yeah,
Situation with Pittsburgh.
yeah. I mean, I, that where's that going to end? I mean, we don't need to get into it right now, but that's going to be a huge problem
Yeah,
with schools who don't have the opportunity to raise those kind of funds.
yeah. I mean, that's a kid. I think he's a junior, maybe senior. He's been there a couple years. I mean, he was obviously playing with Pickett,
Yeah,
and you have to assume like at Pitt, you have guys who are there for that long. You would think they're going to stay, and then he might. I mean, he hasn't decided yet, but he's in the portal. He might up and leave for USC.
right.
That was an interesting story though that broke a couple days ago.
That it is. It actually blew my mind because I really don't even I wouldn't even thought of I I don't I don't even know how the school gets away with that internally
Yeah,
because I I don't even know how legally that happened properly. I mean,
yeah. I
or
mean,
will happen properly. Just put it that way.
it
Because
is
I don't
really
know the
close.
ins and outs of that, but whole baby is that opens a can of worms that will be very very ugly down the road.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost as close as like NFL GMs, contacting each other like we want this player, we want this player.
Yeah,
It's like we're borderline of having that in college football.
yeah, and it's going to be. And the guys, unfortunately, the Dabo guys, if there's a long list of guys who want you to be, want you to come through the system and blah blah blah, and have that family thing, and it all looks good, but uh, those guys are unfortunately probably going to go by the wayside because I mean, I'm not saying Riley's cheating. I'm just
Yeah,
saying that it's a new wave, and it's going to be a very very hard thing to battle.
yeah. I
'Cause-
love Lincoln Riley, but he's like in the center of attention for the whole thing right now.
yeah, he is.
I would
And
be curious to see like if Dabo ends up getting a different job, if he leaves Clemson, goes somewhere else, if he changes his ways and gets into the portal more just because of being at a different school.
he's almost going to have to because it's going to be a hard situation for them to stay up on it. I mean, just think about bringing a kid all the way up through the system, and he gets to be a junior, and he's now ready to roll and actually play, and he transfers because some other coach knows that kid's gotten better and better and better, and now their quarterback gets hurt in spring ball or some crap, and then they snatch him out of the air. That's the stuff that's going to happen.
So just quick back to spring games quick. We talked about how USC was one of the Pac-12 teams in the poll early preseason, and then we talked about Georgia a little bit. You mentioned Bennett,
Yeah.
um, and Bo Nix. Georgia and Oregon actually open up the season this year against each other.
Wow.
It'll be September 3rd. So I
Wow.
mean that's Bennett versus Nix. That'll be huge.
That'd be a good game. Well, it'll be a good chance for one of those two kids to make a huge impression.
Yeah, I mean they've been around for a couple years too, both of them.
Yep. Penn State has Auburn. They have Auburn early. I was thinking Nix was still with Auburn, but they have Auburn early. They'll get
They go to Jordan Hare then.
they go. What was that?
They go to Auburn.
Okay. Yes, that's
Because we
correct.
had
Yeah.
them in the whiteout last year.
Right. Clifford was something less than impressive in the spring ball, I gotta say.
Yeah, I think they don't really do that. It didn't seem like they do much of a game though.
They don't.
They
It was
just
no
kind of run
hitting.
practice.
Yeah, it was no hitting, and it was, that's another timing thing. But really, you should basically play 7-on-7 if you want to do the timing thing, and why get linemen involved and get
Yeah, I mean I understand like they don't want players getting injured, but I mean obviously we don't. You would probably know more, coaching before, but how much strategy do you have going into a spring game? Like you really get a good look at your quarterback if he's not going up against real competition. If they're kind of like they go up to hit him and they stop.
right. Yeah, that doesn't hurt near as bad as during the season.
I'm
But
excited for. I mean, obviously, I'm excited every year for Penn State season, but I think they have a lot of young players now, and I want to see if Clifford can adjust to, who they're bringing in. I saw they got a transfer from Western Kentucky, Mitchell Tinsley, a receiver, and obviously you have Singleton, and then Caden Saunders, who's a freshman. So like every year they bring in all these young guys at Penn State, and then
yeah,
it may not mesh all together right away, but now they have like a weird situation. They have a veteran quarterback who's in his last year, I think, and then a bunch of really young guys.
but the kid from Canada that played in the Rutgers game.
Oh, Velo.
Yeah, I can never say his name. That's him. Um, he's it surprises me that he's not even. Maybe he has thought about going into the portal because,
He's only a redshirt freshman, actually.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. He's a redshirt freshman now.
Yeah.
Oh my.
That probably is why, because Clifford, I think, is on his last year. He's
Yes.
a redshirt senior, or he's a
Yes, he's a
senior, one of the
fifth.
two.
He's a fifth-year senior. Yeah.
So I mean, if Clifford's out this year, I mean, Velo is going to have competition, obviously, with Drew Alar, but
Yeah.
I don't think Velo will leave. I mean, he's got 5-6 more years there
Wow.
with being redshirted.
I didn't know. I thought he was a little older than that, but I didn't know that. But that's going to clog things up. But it's interesting. That was the one and only other point I had of the spring games is that how different each school chooses to run their spring game.
Yeah.
Some of them were hitting like they meant it, and then there was others like Penn State where they barely even allowed people to make contact.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
some of them you even have like the defense getting certain number of points for like sacks,
yes,
fumbles, whatever. Like that stuff's weird to me, but I would rather watch them do like a whole scrimmage, team like first team against second team or whatever.
right.
Are you still a Penn State fan?
Well, sure. I have to be. I've been at it too long. It's painful. I can tell you that.
Oh my God, yeah. They open up this year on the road against Purdue.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna run through their schedule real quick. They got Ohio at home, second week. They go to Auburn, So it's a really similar to last year's schedule. They opened up against a Big Ten team with Wisconsin, obviously won.
Yeah.
They came home and played Ball State, and then the Auburn game was right after that. So it's exactly the same, just flipped the home and home with Auburn. And then they have Central Michigan and Northwestern. And then you're obviously going to get into that time of the year where they play Michigan and Ohio State and
Right.
ultimately ruin the season. But they don't have Wisconsin this year, so that's a plus. And they play Michigan State and Ohio State both at home.
A home, yeah. And they travel to Ohio State then, right?
No, they're at home against Ohio State. They travel to Michigan and Indiana.
Okay. I I would worry tremendously about the first two games, to tell you the truth, because that quarterback's still at Purdue, that big kid, right? I forget his name.
At Purdue.
Yeah, I forget his name, but he was pretty good. I mean, he was a decent quarterback there, and they'll give them trouble. There's no question about it.
They don't
And
have
the all
Iowa this year, so that's good.
Oh yeah, okay. And the Auburn
That one would
Auburn
be,
situation is, I mean, at Auburn, I
yeah.
forget Auburn's ranked. I don't know what they're ranked, but
They're always tough though. Even if they go like 8-3, they're a tough team.
without a doubt, I mean, that's going to be a murder game,
I think if you
especially
flip,
since they beat them last year.
yeah, I think if you flip that last year and we played that game in Auburn, that may have gone Auburn's way because we won that by an incomplete Hail Mary and
Yeah,
it was in the whiteout. So that obviously had a little bit of effect on it.
yeah, no question about it.
All right, you want to talk a little Ohio State, Bama, considering their spring games?
I think I really do think for as good as Stroud is, and obviously he is very good, he's going to have a long way to go for this season because of the newer wide receivers and tight ends is going to have to come in. I think I'm not saying he can't do it, and we're talking about skilled positions here, but I'm not saying they can't do it, but I think it's going to be not the easiest thing in the world to transition into.
I mean, yeah, when he came in, was he a freshman last year? He came in with Olave and Wilson already there at
Right.
receiver. Now you lose both of them. He still has Smith and Jigma, which that kid was huge in the Rose Bowl. But you're right. I mean, I feel like Ohio State reloads like every year and brings in all these guys, but I think him losing, that the key offense around him, he might struggle. But then again, it's Ohio State.
I'm not saying he can't get it done because he's a heck of an athlete. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
question about it. But they lost a good tight end too. I'm trying to think of his name. Ruckert. Yeah, yeah, that's it. He's tough kid and plays well. And then two wide receivers. I think those wide receivers were drafted back to back.
Yeah, hey, and Williams was right in there too, and he used to go to Ohio State.
Is that right?
He doesn't claim them though. He posted that on his Instagram. He said, "I'm from Bama." Their schedule's pretty favorable too. If you want to keep going on Ohio State a little, they open up against Notre Dame, but you never know what Notre Dame's going to be week 1, and then they have Arkansas
Plus,
State.
that's a whole new coaching staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you
Without
don't
Brian
have
Kelly
no
there,
idea.
we have no clue what Notre Dame's going to be.
Right.
And then they go to Michigan State. That'll be huge in October, but they have Iowa, Indiana, and Michigan all home in the Horseshoe. So pretty favorable for Ohio State.
That's actually kind of dangerous.
I think if they've been in the playoff the past couple years in a row. If they can run through that with that favorable home schedule, they could get another matchup with Bama.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I would think that Alabama or Georgia should be ranked up there in a number 1, 2 spot again. I mean, I think it's their Bama and Georgia right now. It's theirs to be taken from them.
Yeah, I
I mean,
think and you could throw Ohio State in there. I mean, not having
I
the
agree.
rings, but with playoff experience past couple years, it's just the three of them right there.
Right. I agree. And it, they should be ranked up there until somebody takes that away from them. But
Yeah,
I just don't know that Ohio State has that high level of offense. They're gonna have to prove it to me. I mean, and they can play their JV games here in the beginning of the year, which that's
yeah.
basically what we're talking about.
I think
They
it's
can,
all JV until they play like MSU or Michigan.
right. So in that situation, I mean, it's fine that they are going to play that, but boy, they better start earning their stripes when it becomes time to play Michigan or Michigan State.
Yeah.
Then we'll find out a little bit about what they're made of.
You mentioned how Georgia and Alabama are they're both like atop of the SEC, obviously through the years. I want to get your opinion. I keep hearing stuff about Texas A&M coming up eventually to like get into that category because LSU was there a couple years ago.
Yes,
Do you think you could see that at all with Jimbo Fisher with them coming up?
that's a definite no in my mind, and it is because I don't see that level of possibility at A&M. I I'm not putting them down because yeah, they've put out some pretty good teams,
Hmm.
but when you start talking about what Georgia and Alabama have accomplished in the last, I don't know, give it 10 years. I don't know
Yeah,
how long it is, but give it a good long shot here. What they have accomplished is ridiculous. I mean, and in order to be at that level, I actually was thinking about that today, and who has brought really good college teams to the table. Another one is Clemson.
yeah.
Clemson was top dog and tough and kicking butt and carrying on. I mean, they're not bad now,
No,
but
they fell off a little last year, but
They're not Georgia, Alabama,
no,
and so
it really has been the two of them just clear cut out in front of everyone else.
it is. And it's not just like you're slicing the cake up a little bit. There's a huge slice of cake, and then there's little slices.
Yeah,
And A&M's going to be one of those little slices.
LSU.
LSU was. Notre Dame fits that mold. They've been up in there.
Hmm.
Um, Michigan's going to go. I mean, it, it depends on how much he's going to get out of some of the ones that he took in or the portal, but I don't know that they're going to have to prove a lot to say that they're going to be at that level.
Michigan.
Yeah,
I feel like they could maybe have a similar year to last year when they got to the playoff.
or yeah,
Yeah,
it and I guess I don't know. Like you said, Ohio State's still up in there, but they're still not part of the Georgia Alabama.
yeah,
And I think really what created all that was competition. I think that Georgia and Alabama were fighting for, first of all, players. I mean, they're right next to each other.
yeah.
They're fighting for players, and they were fighting for, the SEC established situation, and that
And then everyone else in the SEC kind of picks off the scraps of their recruiting, like
that's
Auburn,
that's
LSU,
exactly
and
right.
A&M.
And when you're talking about scraps, you're talking about good kids. I
Yeah,
mean, but you're not talking about the 15 that got drafted into
yeah,
the
yeah.
NFL.
You're not talking about Jordan Davis and Jamison Williams and whatnot.
Exactly. Exactly. So I don't know. To answer your question that you initially asked is I think A&M is not a bad place to go and not a bad place to play.
You know what's going to be interesting with them? You know how they and Texas always battle for recruits. Wait till Texas
Right.
joins the SEC in 2 years.
Yeah.
That's going to be really
They,
weird.
they're going to look like deer in headlights because
Yeah,
that
they
rock's
can't
going
even
to
win
hit
the
them
Big
hard.
12.
That rock is going to hit them hard. Man,
You know that they didn't have a single player drafted in the draft this year. I'm pretty sure.
I didn't know that. Is that right?
I'm gonna fact check that really quick. It may have been the first round, but let me look. But yeah, I mean, when they join the SEC, it's them and OU who are going over, and OU has done stuff in the Big 12 the past couple years, obviously with Lincoln Riley. But now that he's gone, I think Texas and OU they're just going to struggle in the SEC.
I agree.
I think they're too like they think that they're up at that level with
No,
bowl games and playoff.
they're
But
biting off a lot because I mean, you got other schools in the SEC that would like to be at that level, and they can't get it done on a consistent basis.
yeah,
I mean, there's a whole bunch of SEC schools that are ranked. Kentucky's one of them. Ole Miss is in there.
oh well, there's a fair point. You put Ole Miss, Arkansas, Kentucky up against OU or Texas, and they're going to beat them. And
Yes.
those are teams in the SEC
Yeah.
that aren't even top 5.
Yes, and they what even if they don't beat them, they're going to give them a ride for their money. I mean, they're just going to put them right to the bitter end. They'll beat them up, and it'll be like, I mean, the SEC is a smash mouth kind of conference. I mean, that is a big time situation.
Yeah, here it is. Texas didn't have a single player drafted in the 22 NFL draft.
In 7 rounds.
Yeah.
Wow. Even Penn State had like 5 or 6.
They usually do, but I would think at least one from Texas. Chattanooga had more players drafted than Texas. Texas is back, though. You know they're going to say that.
Well, I think that we're running out of teams there to talk about except for Penn State, and I don't know.
You don't want to talk about them too much because you'll get your hopes up.
No, they have too many young kids. Their offensive line is incredibly questionable at all times. I just don't see they lost significant secondary guys too.
Penn State.
Yeah, I mean they all went to the draft. They lost an excellent wide receiver. They
Obviously with Dotson.
Yeah, I mean I think they can be a middle of the road kind of team.
Yeah.
And maybe try to get some of these young guys. Noah Kane left, but I don't know that. I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't okay, but he wasn't a heart bleeding, superstar.
The big thing for me looking into this season will be the running back play with Kayvon Lee, 24 last year. I think he was pretty big. And then if you have guys like Singleton behind him or whoever, they can step up and, breed behind that. I mean, you look at over the years, they did that with Saquon, Sanders, Journey Brown, and all that.
Yeah, I wouldn't look for Singleton to make a mess out of this year. I doubt that that's even possible, but I would look for him to
grow behind them.
Yeah, I think is part of his sophomore year ought to be okay, and then
junior, senior year, Barkley style.
Yeah, I mean he's built like him. I mean he has some similarities, put it that way. But I don't think this is the year for the Nittany Lions.
No, I like last year was pretty surprising with my expectations, but so we're closing in near the end here. We talked a little NIL. We should next weekend or something. We should do the whole thing on NIL.
I agree. I mean,
even
fire
away on it.
To get into it right now,
we wouldn't be able to. We should though. That would be a good one. So just to end here, you want to talk a little bit of the draft picks?
Yeah, sure.
Just some of the bigger guys. The likes of like Pickett, Corral, Ritter, whoever.
You know what? Pickett stays in his hometown, and he'll be loved by everybody in that stadium. I think he has a chance to start. I really do. Yeah,
I think his competition is Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't know that he'll be sad that he's not starting just because of his ego, but $2 million a year or $3 million a year, $4 million, I don't even know what he makes, but to be a backup, and that's a pretty nice way of like moving out of the NFL. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of these guys. Look at the kid from Wilson, Henny.
Mhm.
He's been a backup quarterback for a good long time.
I mean, he's been riding Mahomes and the Chiefs for the past like 4 or 5 years.
Exactly, making 2 or 3, 4 or 5 million bucks, whatever he's making, and that's a darn nice way of just fading into the sunset.
Yeah.
So I think this Pickett's awfully good. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not sure he. I
You
mean, he's
saw
going to
they
get
got
face handed to him really hard, but
you saw they got George Pickens along with him from
I
Georgia.
did.
That's
I did.
that could be a
In
good
fact, I
connection.
wrote that down. I was like, oh, wow, that's going to be a really good asset to
Yeah.
if they get any kind of timing together, they'll be good.
Yeah, I mean they got months and months and then through preseason. What was it? Oh, the other big quarterbacks in that draft, Malik Willis. You saw him
Yeah,
fall all the way to what, third round, right? Third or
yeah,
fourth
I think
to the
so.
Titans. And he was supposed to be a top 20 some pick.
Was he?
Yeah, him and Pickett were like neck and neck with the odds of who was gonna go first, and he dropped
Yeah,
all the way down.
yeah, and also Hal. I mean, I don't know that he'll play right away. I
Yeah.
don't know that the guy for the Titans will play right away. I don't think so.
I think he's gonna go up against Carson Wentz. Like, I feel like that could be a competition at least, but
Oh my God. But I mean, he's like dirty laundry. He's really been getting around, but I wouldn't surprise me if that he doesn't push him. I mean, Wentz has the pro background
mhm.
and has, you know, he definitely is not he's not a horrible quarterback. He just hasn't been able to get it done.
Yeah. And now, I mean, you go to Washington, that's not fantastic, but and then they draft the quarterback right behind you. I mean, I feel like
Oh yeah, they're putting the squeeze on him hard.
yeah. Um, what was the other one I wanted to talk about? Oh, I just wanted to hit on the three Ohio State kids, Wilson, Olave, and then Williams all going. We
Yeah,
talked about that earlier. Um, Williams to the Lions, Olave to the Saints, and then Wilson to the Jets.
yep. I don't think they'll make an impact on. I don't think any of them are going to make a full blown impact. I think they can be. I I I watched some of them in a couple tapes and stuff, and
Yeah.
obviously I've seen them play at Ohio State, but um, I think they'll do okay. And don't look. Personally, I'd say don't look for them to be superstars.
Yeah.
This year. I
I'd
really
say
don't.
Olave may be out of the three because of just being in New Orleans.
Right. Yeah. Again, the thing that hurts the most is Trout. I mean, he's going to really be sucking wind without, the some superstars there. But
Good though.
yeah, yeah. I'm not sure, but I think you're right. I think that guy is going to make the most out of everything. I'm interested to see how Ruckert. I'm interested to see how he does.
Yeah.
He's good. I think he'd be a. I don't know who's lacking a tight end, but where did he go? Do you have any idea? We don't have to look, but
I can get it up quick.
Where if somebody's really hurting for a tight end, he's a good tight end. He's tough.
New York Jets actually with
Oh,
Wilson.
geez. The Jets could use anything.
Yeah.
Good.
Good luck hunting.
Thanks. I'm going to need it.